How we doing, guys? Welcome to another episode of the PB Trading Theory. On this episode, we are going to be going over structure, gloving, tutting, legato. We're going to be going over structure, all right? So let's get into this. And the way I'm going to do it today is I'm going to start off by just doing my regular Picasso work on TradingView, and then we're going to go into some backtesting. So I show you live what my thought process looks like. Everyone's like, yo, can you please backtest and show us how you think in real time? Yeah, I can do it for you, bro. I can do anything you want me to as long as it's within the YouTube community guidelines. Then we should be all good to go. That being said, let's get into the TradingView. So first thing, obviously, when discussing structure is I need to make sure that you guys understand the two videos I already released, one on liquidity, one on fair value gaps. And structure is what I would consider to be probably one of the most important aspects of how I trade, because it really ties in with understanding market conditions. How do you identify when it's an appropriate time to be entering a trade, if the conditions are in your favor, if it is the right manipulation leg to be entering off of? All these things revolves around structure. And so I will not execute a trade if we lack good structure. Even if everything is there in the sense of like pattern, whatever, like, oh, okay, we're bouncing off higher time from Peter, we have an inverse, whatever, we have all this. But if the structure isn't good, I will not execute a trade, right? So it's really important that you understand that. So let's go over what good structure looks like. Let's put it this way. If I want to take a counter trend trade, right, I want to make sure that the leg after we tap into that higher time from key level, right, I want to make sure that we have a clean manipulation leg down and then a clean inverse to the upside. And how do I know if I have a clean leg, if I have good structure? Well, I should have a very blatantly visible swing high, internal high here where I put my TP at, and a very blatant swing low where I put my stop loss at, right? And this is, like, generally speaking, what good structure looks like. You want to be creating imbalances, unfilled 5 or 15 minute gaps above, clear buy side liquidity pools above if you're taking counter trend, if you're taking longs after price has been dumping, right? So we'll start off by calling this counter trend, so / reversals. And yeah, so a lot of people also ask me, Patty, do I need to see resweeps, right? Let's say I want to take a long after we hit this like higher time from key level. Do I need to see resweeps? Well, if the structure going into the higher time from key level is good, right? If we get a clean manipulation leg and then we're getting a good inverse off of it after it taps, you don't need to see a resweep. But often what happens is with counter trend trades, we'll have price shoot lower with little to no retracement and then hit it. And then people will just take the first inverse to the upside. And does this look like good structure to you guys, right? Price has been delivering lower and very strongly, and then there's a half-ass inverse to the upside. And this is what I would call like pattern trading, the way I think, the way I see the markets, the way my model works. This would be counterintuitive. It's just not how you want to go about, because realistically, just because you're getting this inverse to the upside after price has been delivering for a long time lower, it's not enough to tell you that, okay, yeah, we're bouncing off this higher time from key level and we're getting an inverse, therefore it's valid to long. No, we're still lacking structure. So in a case like this, where we don't have good structure to be longing yet, we don't have like these clear swing highs and imbalances above, right? We don't have like these unfilled 5 or 15 minute gaps. We don't have all these things that we like to see. Then we want to wait for structure to create. And so what would that look like in this case for counter trend reversals? Well, maybe we can get a resweep of the low on the lower time frame, right? So we hit that higher time from key level, and then we get a resweep of the low, and then I can take this inverse to the upside, because now I have good structure. I have a clean, I guess, internal high now, a clear internal low, nice sweep on the lower time frame, and now I can obviously go break even or TP at this high, because that's good structure. What's like another example? This third example is a bit more rare, but like, let's say, price is going lower and you don't really have the best structure to be longing yet, and then we hit that higher time from key level. Another thing you can do is wait for structure to start forming. So wait to see if price ends up giving you a strong reaction then creating a 5-minute gap, and then pulling back into that and getting an inverse out of that, right? So this requires a bit more patience. It's not the more common scenario. And this is what I talked about in that strategy video that I posted, where you tap into hourly PBTRADING, 5-minute opens up, and then you get an inverse out of that. And if you get it pretty early on, then obviously you're still trading pretty counter trend and you're catching an early reversal, maybe to the upside. But in this case, now you have this clear internal high, whatever. And sometimes this same setup presents but way higher, and you're taking practically continuation, and we'll get into that. But this is 3 good examples of what structure would look like. And remember, this could be a 5 or 15-minute gap that we're using as a foundation. And so all these things, what it tells us is, okay, as we're delivering lower, price is clearly generating liquidity and a narrative that we could go higher as we're coming down, and then we hit that higher time frame key level, and now we have this clear swing high, clear inversion to the upside, and we can target these gaps because they're targetable. They're just good targets to have. In this case, we have price delivering lower, but we're not really creating any clear imbalances, any very clear targets. We're just creating probably either one giant bearish for value gap, or maybe we're creating just 1,000 fucking little ones. And these are the type of conditions that you want to avoid, right? Because it's not clear structure. And then in that case, you wait for a resweep on the lower time frame, and then you enter off of that. And then there's this scenario where price shoots lower, kind of the same thing as this, but instead of getting a resweep on the lower time frame, we get a pretty strong reaction right off the bat, and then we get a pullback into a 5 or 15-minute gap, and then we get that inverse to the upside. And so now we have that confirmation. Okay, we tapped into the hourly key level, then we got a reaction, then we pulled lower, then we hit that 5 and 15-minute gap. Now we're getting the inverse to the upside, and now we can execute longs, right? So in all these scenarios, you've now stacked enough probability to execute longs. Obviously in this one, it's almost this one you need the least amount of confirmation or thing to wait for, because the structure is already there going into that key level. So you don't need to wait for new structure to form. So in this one, you can already execute the long off that inverse after tapping the higher time from key level. This one, you have to wait for that resweep or something, because you want a clean manipulation leg, a clear leg to be trading off of. And then this one, of course, you wait for this. And so that's I'd say 3 ways to go about it. The 3 most common ways and the most probable ways to go about it as far as structure and trading counter trend. Now let's get into do I want to do continuations or internal range? Now it's going to, we'll do continuations, because continuations is the easiest, right? Now let's go into continuations. And so when you're taking a continuation, that obviously is the opposite of taking reversal, where you're trying to catch the beginning of the move. Continuations, you already have the structure implied, right? It's already there. Let's say we tapped into that higher time from key level, and we've been delivering higher, right? So we tap into that higher time from key level, bang, we'll do the same thing as last time, 1 hour, 4 hour gap. Price has been going up for a bit, and let's say we have this clear swing high up here that we want to target, this major high. I hope you watch the liquidity video, because that's crucial to piecing all these things together. I'm showing you with each video how you piece it together. So we have that major high above, right? And we're expecting that price is going to go up to here. And so for continuations is very easy, because continuations actually requires the least amount of structure. But I'll show you 2 ideal scenarios, right? Scenario 1 is if you're taking continuations. This is a very common one. All you need to see is literally just a pullback into a 5 or 15-minute gap. Quite literally the same as this, just higher up, and inverse to the upside, bang, and make sure that there's a higher time frame narrative for why price could go higher. Is there a major high that's still intact? Is there an unfilled 1 hour gap above? Something like that. That's very important. You have to identify a reason for price to continue going higher in this case. And let's get over this while everyone starts freaking out. Patty, what if there's another unfilled 5 or 15-minute gap below? Do we need to wait for that one to hit? Patty, do we need to wait for EQ to hit? Do we need to wait for this? Silence. You don't. It's really that simple. If you get a pullback into a 5 or 15-minute gap, that should be enough, especially when you already have good structure and you're utilizing so much momentum. Then this is obviously good enough. I mean, to be entering a trade. In the case where, let's say you do enter off this and then it stops you out and then it pulls back lower into the more discounted 5 or 15 minute gap, and then you get the and then you get the inverse, then fuck it, man. If you want to re-enter, it's still just as good of a setup. But you know, if you have a mandatory 1 trade a day rule, then just call it at that. You know, this one might play out, but there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you just get stop rated and that's whatever. But most of the time, this one will play out. So this will be enough, right? And with continuations, the good thing is you don't need like this super strong structure going upwards. It can also look as simple as like, let's say price is going down, whatever. We hit that higher time frame low, and then we get a super strong reaction, and then we pull back into like the first 5 or 15 minute gap, right? And we're still using that same high as a target, right? We still have this high above, and we can literally take the first pull back into a 5 or 15 minute gap. Geez, I keep saying and then yeah, inverse to the upside. And that's good enough. Now, what would be like the more ideal scenario in this case if you're taking continuations? Well, obviously, if you're taking continuations, it's nice to have internal liquidity as well and not just target like the major high. Or, oh my God, stop saying or the, did I just do it again? Or like an unfilled 1 hour gap, although it is very viable. It's nice to also have internal structure. And so that would look something like, okay, price trades down, whatever, same scenario as usual. Let's say we start trading up and we want to target like the high here. It's nice when price does something like this, where we start generating structure towards the top. So we have like low resistance liquidity above, and we get, you know, a nice manipulation lower, hit that 5 or 15 minute gap. And now we freaking take that inverse to the upside. We have nice low resistance liquidity above the target. So now we know that there's also liquidity generated above that we can target. And we still have this major high. And that's pretty much a good example of good structure too when taking continuations. What else can I say? As far as all-time highs goes, it's pretty much just the same thing. A lot of people ask me about all-time highs trading. And realistically, it's just like, let's say we are at all-time highs, right? We're just trading in no man's land. It's the same thing, 5 or 15 minute pullback. Ideally, you should wait, or it'd be better if you wait for structure to start being created that you can target. So maybe some low resistance liquidity at the top of all-time highs, and then that manipulation, and then that inverse of the upside. That's pretty ideal, but usually a 5 or 15 minute gap with a inverse of the upside will do just fine, even if you're at all-time highs. So there's all these scenarios really. And finally, right now we've done counter trend reversals, we've done continuations, and the last one would be freaking internal range. So let's say we grab internal range. Internal range is really simple. It's simply like, notice how in these cases we're trading external to internal from a higher time frame key level into a lower time frame key level. Here we're trading internal to external, right? From a internal, or from a lower time frame key level to a higher time frame key level. And in internal range, well, it's sort of implied. Here we're trading internal to internal. And that's when you just want to see really basic good structure, right? So let's say you're already in the middle of a range. You have like a general idea of where price wants to go. You have like, let's say you're just like bullish, whatever, but you'll notice on the lower time frame that you have a lot of liquidity generated above, whatever. And you know, you already have like a lot of liquidity within the range that you're currently in. And it's as simple as, you know, you want to wait for like a 5 minute pullback in this case, or 15 minute as always, and then take the inverse wherever the liquidity is being generated. And so you're just trading internally, of course. So, you know, if there's a 15 minute gap up here, or unfilled 5 minute, unfilled 15 minute, whatever it is. And if you watch the liquidity video, we have like these highs resting inside of it, or maybe it's an unfilled 15 minute gap, whatever you want, however you want to go about it, right? If there's already internal range liquidity, and key levels, then you can just trade like that, right? Price trades lower into a 5 or 15 minute gap. We can target, you know, let's say we have a data high up here, or maybe a data high up here, or an unfilled 15 minute here. Well, we're just taking along from this 5 50 minute to like another 5 and 50 minute. So that's pretty much internal range trading. Sometimes we'll just create like a data high right here or something, so we can take a trade like that, bang, and towards this data high that's within our range. And so we're not targeting like any major high or major low as far as like the actual session, like anything like that. We're just playing it off of what the market is presenting. Okay, we're bouncing off this 5 and 15 minute gap. Cool, we're targeting this high inside this other 5 and 15 minute gap. Ideally, you want a foundation behind all this, right? Like if you were taking this long, you know, it's nice to see that at least you're bouncing off something in the higher time frame that would implicate that you're bullish. But as far as your entry goes, when it's just all within here, you know, this is pretty simple as it gets. And then the last thing I want to say that I haven't emphasized on quite enough, you're probably still thinking, well, how do I know what good structure is? What's bad structure? So for one, you don't want to be trading when market conditions are choppy. When market conditions are choppy and just not doing much, and we're kind of just stuck between a range, you wait for manipulation, right? Once price manipulates in a certain direction, how do you identify if it's a manipulation leg? You see if it rebounds any key level. Go back to the liquidity video, go back to the fair value gap video, go back to all these videos. If you don't know what a key level is, right? Whether it's a 1 hour, 4 hour, 5 or 15 minute gap, any of these, if it's rebalanced one of those, then it's you can assume it's a manipulation leg. And then if you get an inverse or something of some sort off of that, then you know, you can catch a trade, whatever. But you never want to trade within accumulation periods. Also, an easy way to identify bad price action and when to stay off because we don't have good enough structure is if we're not opening up fair value gaps, right? We have like these super wicky moves, and even if we're going somewhere, it'll still look like very much like this, and we won't be opening up any gaps, any fair value gaps. And those are the type of conditions that we want to avoid. So what are the two that I mentioned? Accumulation periods and lack of fair value gaps. So that's pretty much everything for structure. Now I'm going to go into real examples. So we'll go on FX replay here, and I'll do some backtesting live. This is I believe January I selected, January 2026. So it should be pretty relevant, right? So let's go into next day open. And now we have, this is the higher time frame. We're on the hourly chart. What do we see here? Awesome. We're bouncing off of this 1 hour bullish fair value gap. We're sweeping out this intermediate low. This is something I love to see. And now what do we notice too? Literally just what I mentioned, right? We had identified that price was previously accumulating. We don't want to be trading during this period, but what do we wait for? Price to manipulate lower and then provide an entry to the upside. So in this case, I would want to wait for something like, damn, where are my tools? Whatever, for price to go down and then get an inverse to the upside. So let's see if we get that. Go on the 1 minute chart here. Let's go on the 1 minute chart here. And okay, 9:30 opens up. Let's go back to the 5 minute. So this is looking like we're gonna do an internal to internal here from what I'm seeing. Right, price is bouncing off this 5 minute gap right here. There's this 5 minute bearish gap here. 9:30 opened up higher in this case. And if we reject this and get an inverse to the downside, then I can target this low, which would be this low inside this 5/15 minute gap. And so this would be a very internal to internal trade. And so let's see if we get anything here. Boom, 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 boom. Bang. Ends up actually taking the low though, so we wouldn't even get an entry on this. But then you can see clearly, right, that that's good structure to be trading in because we broke out of that accumulation, and now that's why we're getting that good delivery. Since we took out this low and the target, the low that I wanted to target, then I never got an entry. But yeah, so now we would have to wait for a new structure to form because an objective has been met. So now we would sit here and try to wait for something else to present and see what presents. Okay, price is sort of accumulating. Maybe now we're resweeping this low, right? We're inside this 15 minute gap. Overall, we're feeling bullish with a higher time frame. So now we're sweeping out this low. Cool. I want to see if we get an inverse to the upside because we've created this clear swing high here. We have this perfect gap to inverse, and then we also have this previous high which traded up to there. So we'll see if we get anything around those lines. It seems like we do get an inverse here. And that is the highest time frame gap. Awesome. Whip out the long position tool. And so something like this would be like better structure, right? So like we wanted to take longs around here. Earlier we manipulated lower, but it was pre-market, so we don't do that. Then price opened up, it traded higher. We wanted to take shorts because we started getting good structure. We broke out of that accumulation period, and so shorts seemed like a good idea. We had this clear low, right? That clear swing low, like I mentioned before, and we wanted to have that as a target, but you know, price just ended up shooting lower and taking out that low. And so now we're going to look for longs immediately after that. Probably not. We want to wait for good structure. Price trades up, creates a nice swing high, price comes back lower, resweeps this low, and now we're getting good displacement back up, and now we have this clear structure to target. So maybe this could be a good trade. All right, and let's see here. Sorry, I just like brain fried for a second. So let's say, enter this, and bang, beautiful. So that's literally the perfect example of good structure. To be fair, I don't really remember trading. Oh, because I didn't trade beginning of January. So damn, this is a beautiful setup. And as you can see if we look at ES over to the right side, what do we notice? Look at this, exactly what I was talking about. Price is accumulating. You don't want to be trading during this period. Then it manipulates lower, breaks out of that range. And then we get a strong inverse to the upside. And so now after this manipulation and we're getting this inversion, we can anticipate, price to actually start running all these highs and stuff. But now we have an S&T at this high, so probably wouldn't want to take this on ES anymore. And I don't trade ES, but yeah, that's pretty much that. And then you can see ES ends up running all these highs. Maybe one day I'll spill some more sauce on this model and this way of trading, utilizing accumulation, manipulation, and distribution, which is a model I created about 2 years ago. Not accumulation, manipulation, distribution. That's a natural way that price moves, but something utilizing that as a primary confluence. So yeah, let's go into the next day here. Hopefully that was a good example of structure. Where am I? Okay, so now it's 9:15. Let's look at the higher time frame. So we're inside this bearish hourly gap. Awesome. So we know that if we want to short, we could, but from what I'm seeing, price is also very bullish right now. And the most recent PDRA that we're bouncing off of is this hourly bullish gap. So in this case, I want to see where the structure is generated, right? This is a perfect example of we're most likely going to be trading external to internal here if we're taking a short, or internal to external if we're taking longs, and we'll end up taking continuations. And so from what I can see, we have a lot of liquidity below. We have good targets below if we wanted to short, right? We have unfilled 15-minute gap. We have unfilled 5-minute, all this stuff. So if we wanted to short, there is a narrative behind it, but we need to wait for good structure. And so let's wait till market opens and see what it does, and then we'll base our analysis off that. And so market hasn't opened yet. Seems like it's still going higher. So it seems like the blatantly obvious bias here is bullish. We're ripping through this gap. We're still very much likely going higher. So now what's most likely the trade idea that we're going to want to go for? Continuation longs, right? And so what I need for continuation longs, well, I need to see a pullback into a 5 or 15 minute. So let's mark out our 15-minute gap. 5-minute gap is right here. So if we tap into any of these, I'd be down to take continuation longs. So let's try that out, see if that presents. Oh shit, okay, damn. Price trades lower, taps that 15-minute gap that we marked out. Awesome. Also 5-minute gap. And now with continuations, it's as simple as we can take any long off of this level, as I stated right before. So if we get an inverse of the upside, which right now we have no fair value gap. So what does that mean? That means we don't trade if there's no fair value gaps. We need to wait for a clear leg and a clear fair value gap. All right. There's a 30-second, but fuck that. And so let's go back to this. What the hell, did I freeze? There we go. And we tap into the more discounted 15-minute. So now we're getting even better, I guess, better continuation probability since we're a bit lower. And in this case, I guess the only thing really is a 30-second. So there was one chance up here, but this never ended up inversing on the 30 seconds, so there was no entry there. And now it seems like it is presenting an entry off this 30 second. So this could be a potentially good idea. And as you know, and I stated with continuations, all you need is a pullback into a 5 or 15 minute gap, and then literally just practically taking almost the first inverse in this case, which seems almost counterintuitive with what I say in the counter trend. But counter trend, you need more confluence, right? It makes sense. If you're going to catch a reversal or take anything like a reversal, then you want a lot of structure to start forming towards the bottom. And then if you're taking something like a continuation, you already have all the confluences, all the ideas backed up, and so you only need a 5 or 15 minute pullback. Like I said, this could end up getting stop rated, and then we get in maybe another opportunity. But regardless, I'm just gonna take all this to show you, you know, sort of how I'd go about it. And so in this case, right back up to the highs, something like this. We gotta make sure we don't open like a 5 minute gap that we have to go break even at. But this should be good for now. So let's place this order, 1%, save, see how this plays out. So this gets stopped out, and now what happens? Now price ends up forming better structure, right? This is the only thing about 30 seconds on like these continuations. Right, like this, you have everything you need to in the aspect of continuations, but with a 30 seconds, since you're on such a low time frame, ideally you want even more structure. But in this case, look what happens. Looks like price is resweeping this low, and now we have this clear swing high, which is exactly what I was talking about. So I'm kind of just proving myself right that you need a way for good structure to form. We get this clear swing, and now we're getting a potential second opportunity rolling around here. And let's see. Ooh, and we don't get an entry there. Brutal. So this is next day open. Let's see this next day, and here it looks like we're most likely to be trading internal to external, or maybe internal to internal. Going into the morning, I see that we have a lot of liquidity generated above us, and so all we want to see is a pullback into a 5 or 15 minute. See if ES has anything. See, the structure is pretty bad here. A lot of accumulation, little to no fair value gaps, so this is going to be tricky. We'll see what price presents. Going to wait for market open and see what happens. So market opens way high, ends up taking the major high. Are we bouncing off anything bearish on the higher time frame? Not really. We're not bouncing off any sort of gap. So this is going to be kind of weird. Maybe continuation longs. Depends. Let's see what price presents, where the structure is being generated. No, nothing yet. The hell, there we go. So it's presenting shorts in the terms of like major high getting swept and stuff, but I don't really like this because we're not bouncing off any higher time from key level. So I'd probably just avoid this, let it play out. If anything, did we bounce into a 5 minute now? Okay, now we bounce into a 5 minute, and I'm still feeling pretty bullish, like I said, because we have this major high above everything, and seems price is pretty bullish. I don't really care about this high getting swept since it's not inside a significant gap. Now we're bouncing off a 5 minute gap. We're sweeping on an intermediate low within the 5 minute, and we're getting a 1 minute inverse to the upside, and that is the highest time frame. So this looks good to me. I kind of missed my entry by one candle there, but it's not the end of the world. And so this I like, right? Back up to this major high. This is a continuation trade. Price is blatantly very bullish, and we're just following that with a pullback into a 5 minute and going with that. So let's place that order, save, see how this plays out. Oh, yeah, damn. That was pretty fast, right? So that's all you really need for like continuation structure. Very simple shit. Now let's go on to the next day. So next day, what are we identifying here? Well, the structure is pretty shit so far, but I see a lot of low resistance liquidity below. So maybe we take a short, maybe take out the major high and take an external to internal down to here. Let's see how market opens up. And market opens higher. Beautiful. So we take out this major high on the higher time frame. Seems like we are bouncing off an hourly gap and a 4-hour bearish gap. So if we wanted a short, we do have good structure. We're bouncing off a 4-hour gap. I'll show you right here. It's just 4-hour bearish gap. So this looks like an external to internal. We have good structure because we broke out of this accumulation period, manipulated higher, took out this high, and now we have these clear swing lows to target, right? Very clear price action. And so in this case, if we get a short opportunity, this would be pretty good. So we'll see if anything presents. Seems like price wants to go back up, resweep this high. Maybe we get a 1 minute inverse of the downside now. Just keeps going higher. Do I like this? Not really the best structure yet. We're pretty high now, but we have this 3 minute gap down here. So maybe if we inverse this, that'll make me feel good about it. But notice once again, accumulation, price breaks out of this. So now we're getting good structure. Finally breaking out of that accumulation zone. That's not something we want to be trading in. And now seeing if we get an inverse of the downside in this case. And seems like price is just going higher, creating a new manipulation leg. This could also be good structure. Ends up just going higher. And at this point, I don't really want to be trading anything within here. And why don't I want to be trading anything within this leg? It's just not good structure, right? It's not good structure. You could potentially take like a short down to like this 5 minute, but man, the structure really stinks in this case. So this is something I would avoid, right? Little to no fair value gaps, or just like a one big fair value gaps, probably like a giant 50 minute, yeah, something like that. And it's just not, it's not ideal. So we can like forward test this one. But this is the type of trades that I would recommend avoiding just because you're lacking good structure. And yeah, and there you go. Perfect example of why we avoid that trade. Awesome. Like, right, we're lacking good structure. This is exactly why you want to be avoiding stuff. And so now we'll do one more day, or see if anything actually ends up generating here. Okay, continuations make a lot of sense because we're very bullish that we tap into anything. 15-minute gap, price accumulates, breaks lower. Maybe we get a long here. Okay, so now we get good structure, right? And so in this case, you get good structure. You can long this, stop loss here. This is a pretty difficult close though, I will say, being so freaking premiumed, but you can do a fast break even one of these scenarios. We're not focused on aesthetics, we're focused on facts. And here, if we're taking continuations, all we need is that pullback into the 15-minute, blah blah blah, inverse to the upside. And so this could be pretty good. And so we can try this, go break even at this high and play this through. Jesus Christ. Now we go break even. That's the importance of a good stop loss, right? It's just everything that happens in between is noise. But that's also why it's kind of annoying entering so high above here, because usually when you have like such super strong displacement leading up to the inversion, sometimes it pulls back. Does that mean you wait for a pullback and limit order? No, that's bullshit. Never do that. Always enter off the inverse. Market order that bitch. So now we're break even here. Let's go on the higher time frame, see if we have anything to target. Well, we have like that major high up there, but I don't want to be like greedy, so I'll just go for my 1-to-1 in this case. Let's see if we get it. Nope, we got break even. All good, no worries. And yeah, but I mean, we identified that there was good structure. Obviously, since this entry was pretty high above, it was going to be difficult to get that to take profits, because we wanted to just target this major high and get out the trade, but we had to hold for our reasons in that case. Yeah, I mean, should we do one more, maybe one more? Let's do one final one. Move through price really quick. Bang, 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 bang. Okay, price opens up lower. Do we have good structure above? We have clear swing highs above. Are we bouncing off anything in the higher time frame? We're taking out this higher time frame intermediate low. We're sweeping out this low. If you watch the liquidity video, you know this is a great thing I like to see. Sweeping a low inside a higher time frame gap. Awesome. And so now if we get strong displacement to the upside or not, then we won't be taking anything. And so this is the exact scenario where I wouldn't want to take anything, right? Like, people would take the first inverse here, and that's just stupid. Like, even if this plays out, I don't care. We're lacking structure. This is dumb, right? Like, there's like a 2-minute inverse to the upside. You know, we're not really bouncing off much. Well, we took out this 1 hour intermediate low, but in this case, dude, I would just avoid this freaking trade. Like, we're lacking structure. If we're going to take counter trend, what do we want to see? A clear manipulation leg. And so in this case, I would stay away from this, and you get rewarded for staying away. And now what happens? We get a nice resweep, same opportunity presents itself, but now we have structure, and now we can long, bang. And what do we target? Well, let's see. We have this unfilled 5-minute gap up here, unfilled 15-minute gap. Oh, unfilled 15-minute here. So we'll go break even here, and then try to get about a 1-to-1 in this case. So around here should be good. Stop loss at the bottom of this body of the time frame we're inversing, so a 2-minute. And yeah, do you notice the difference between this setup and this setup? Now we have good structure. We have this clear swing high, exactly what I showed in the beginning. And yeah, we can try this. So let's see if this plays out. Enter here, bang bang, and awesome. Well, we'll leave it at that. So yeah, I mean, hopefully you understand now what I mean by structure. This video seemed pretty freaking goated. I feel like this was a bit more than structure. This was just straight sauce. This was just straight sauce, to say the least. And I was in flow state the whole time, right? I'm probably not gonna do a lot of editing for this video, but I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope you're recommending this series to your friends. I'm trying my best to push this out every day. I'm trying my best to honestly be the best series on YouTube. I'm being super transparent about everything and giving a lot of sauce. But yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, all that stuff. Leave a comment where you're on your journey. I would love to know more about you guys. And finally, we got to do the outro with music. I'm trying to remember what someone requested. Come on, think. What did someone request? What did someone request? What did someone request that I liked? Oh, I remember. Dawns by Zach Bryan. So let me go on chords.com really quick. Do this hella fast. I don't want to be editing this video, so I'm just trying to flow. I'm too lazy to edit today. And yeah, I edit all my videos. That's right. All these videos. Because I like the way I do things. And that's that, bro. Sometimes I just want to do things my own way and not have people touch my shit. All is fair in love and war, so what the hell we even fighting for? I'm on the front porch begging for my dawns back. Give me my goddamn records and my clothes back, cause I'm through. Oh, how I'm through. And by the time she wakes, I'll be halfway to my mama's home. It just dawned on me, life is as fleeting as a passing dawn. And it was my mistake, she never said a thing about Jesus. I miss my mother's southern drawl and her praying through the walls in the evening. Fuck. Give me my thongs back. Everything that dies makes its way on back. I lost her last July in a heart attack. I need one small victory. Give me my thongs back. Everything that dies makes its way back. I lost her last July in a heart attack. I need one small victory. Thank you. And by the time she wakes, I'll be halfway to my... Hopefully that was good. I feel like that was kind of ass since I rushed it. It sounded kind of...